So thank you everyone for joining us today. We're here today to talk about applying to study within the School of Geography. So whether that's to study geography, global development or environmental science at undergraduate. We're joined today by a number of our current students, so Salma, Oliwia and Thomas. My name is Bex. I'm the School Marketing Manager for the School of Geography, and I'm really pleased to welcome you to this online event. This is meant to be a very informal conversation to answer your questions. We're here to support you with your application process and to find out more about studying with us. So we have a number of questions that we get a lot. So I've got those noted down. So I'll start off with those. But if you do have questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat. And what I will just ask our student ambassadors to do is to just briefly introduce themselves so that you know a bit about them. So if we go in alphabetical order, so if we start with Oliwia, if you could just say who you are, what you're studying, what year you're in, and just a bit about your background before studying at Queen Mary.
Hi, so I'm Liv. I'm a first year BSc geography student, so more physical geography. Because I'm a first year, I've just started at Queen Mary and I've been really enjoying myself. And I came straight from my A-levels, and for my A-levels I did psychology, English language and geography. And I also did an EPQ, and my grades were A star, A star, A, and an A in my EPQ.
Lovely, thank you. And if we move to Salma.
Hi, I'm a second year student and I study BA Geography. I guess the A-levels I did were A-level English Literature, Spanish, Geography and EPQ.
Lovely. And if we move on to Thomas.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm a first year geography student. I do BSc Geography, and for A-level I did Biology, Chemistry, Geography and Spanish. It was a big change for me coming to London because I came from in the middle of the sticks in the countryside. But I'm enjoying it so far.
Lovely, thank you. So yeah, so just a reminder, if you do have questions, do feel free to put them in the chat. But what we'll do is we'll start off with some of our commonly asked questions. So to start off with, let's discuss what made you choose to study geography over the other subjects that you were either doing at A-levels or other subjects that you were possibly considering before coming to university. So if we go in alphabetical order again, Oliwia, if you won't mind kicking us off with what made you choose geography.
So before I came to uni, I was definitely like umming and ahhing about what subject to pick because I really wanted to do psychology. Because I never studied psychology until A-level, and I was always interested in it. And then when I did it, I really enjoyed it. But I was always really passionate about geography as well, because I really enjoyed like physical geography and like learning about like how things happen and like why they happen and stuff. And like I felt like I was gonna kind of, I don't know, be losing out on that if I didn't do it at uni. So that's like basically the main reason why I chose to do it at uni, and like it's like it goes into a lot of detail at university, obviously. So I don't know, I just felt like it was like the perfect option for me to like kind of develop that interest and like learn a lot more and like learn more complex things about it as well. So
Lovely, thank you. And if we move on to Salma.
So I decided to pick geography. I feel like this is the most simplest answer. It's just because I enjoyed it. Like out of all the A-level subjects I did, I think geography definitely top tier. Geography and Spanish, to be honest. But I thought like career-wise, I felt like geography would have gave me more options. So that's how I decided to pick geography.
Lovely, thank you. And Thomas?
I decided to pick geography because it's a very well-rounded subject and it takes into account lots of different disciplines, and I felt that could be really useful going forward career-wise, and that's sort of why I chose it at uni, as well as having a passion for it, which I've had for quite some time as well.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, I think it's important for our attendees just to kind of understand what made you choose to study geography. It is definitely something that I think is important to stress in terms of when you're choosing what subject to study. Go for something that you really enjoy, because if you enjoy it, it makes it so much easier to study it, and it's not kind of a job and laborious to go to lectures and things, and you actually really enjoy and want to learn more about the subject. And the good thing about the move from either A-levels or year 13 study through to university is that you then get to kind of go into lots of new territories that you might not have studied. Even if you've done geography at A level or GCSE, you will get to tap into some new areas. And I do think it's important to kind of flag as well for geography. Something that surprised me when I joined the School of Geography was just the range of research and the range of topics that our geographers do kind of cover. So we have academics who are looking at the DNA of animals and how that is almost the DNA testing that we get with Ancestry and bits and pieces like that to find out the breeds of dogs. And that was something that I just completely didn't expect to find in a geography department. And we've also had academics who've been researching into abortion support in areas that don't support abortion. Other things such as contaminants into the sea from that are risking polluting, things like that, and other really quite niche areas of study that I wasn't expecting from a geography department, and they do kind of span so many different. It's kind of a global perspective how the work market has changed during the pandemic and things like that. So it is really topical and really interesting things that our researchers get involved in, and then that feeds into our teaching. So I think it's important to flag that geography can span a lot of different topics. So that does help in terms of giving you a wide knowledge when you study the subject. Lovely. So let's move on to what made you choose the School of Geography or Queen Mary as the university for you to study that subject. So if we go back to front now, so Thomas, I'll start with you.
So following on from what you just said, it's actually the breadth and the variety of different things that you can study that made me come to Queen Mary and pick the School of Geography. I felt that was something that really stood out, and that's why I ended up coming here, to be perfectly honest. Just the complete range.
That's it. That's a good, great reason. Lovely. Thank you. Let's move on to Selma.
I would say that I'd have to agree with Thomas. I think that was one of the push factors to come to Queen Mary's. It was just the variability in modules. And so the way like I picked the university that I applied for, I looked at all the modules that the schools offered and the universities offered. So I get to know like what I'm actually going to be learning, because my number one rule was that I was never going to go to university to study. Although like I love geography, there are some things I'm not really that interested in, because it's such like a broad field. So I wanted to go to a university that had like a variability in all the things that I wanted and all the things that I wanted to get out of my geography degree. And I think that Queen Mary's has offered me that.
Lovely. Thank you. And Oliwia?
Yeah, again, I definitely agree. You know, like it's really good to have like loads of options there for you, and like especially if you choose like say a more focused degree like the physical geography degree, you can still take like human modules as well. So like I still have that ability to like learn about that, and it's still something I'm interested in, which is why I enjoyed geography in the first place. But yeah.
Lovely, thank you guys. So I think that is something that's a good point to raise, is that particularly with areas of study that you can do prior to getting to university. So geography is an example here. No geography degree will be exactly the same as another, and so one university might offer something completely different in terms of the modules, and so it is really important to have a look at what the universities are offering and to compare those against what you really enjoy or have enjoyed in your subject, or whether or not you want to try something new in terms of the topics of study. And so don't just presume that because you're applying to study a geography degree that it will be the same across the different universities that you apply to. It is really important to have a look and see what they do offer. And we have our course listings on the website of our different programs, and then we have a module directory, so you can have a look through for the modules that are there, and this gets updated throughout the year. So something for you to look at if that's something that you're interested in. And I think it's also worth pointing out that whilst we have BA and BSc students with us, we also have our environmental science programs and the new global development program for 2022. So these are also other areas, and I think that that's something a bit different about the School of Geography, because we do separate those out. And so yeah, so let's move on then. So let's discuss how you found moving from A levels or previous study in year 13 to university? Because I know that that sometimes is something that prospective students are worried about. So let's start with Salma to mix it up.
So one thing that I found was like a really big shift from A levels to like university was taking accountability for my own learning and my own education. So like in A levels, you obviously have like teachers and stuff that are going to push you to hand in your work, study, like make sure that you're on top of your own stuff. But at uni, you don't kind of get that same push because at the end of the day, you're paying for your own education. So it's more like on you. So I feel like I'm very grateful for the fact that it's taught me like how to like time manage and how to be like efficient in like my learning and what's important and like what I can prioritize and stuff like that. And also I would say that tutorials were really really helpful. So like you'll learn this when you come, or you'll learn this like when it comes closer to the time, but you have like lectures, seminars and tutorials, and your tutor will he or she or they will basically be a guide for like your university first year life and how to write essays, how to navigate readings, how to access the library, how to navigate your first year of uni and all the basics that you need to know. And I feel like that was a really big help, and if I didn't have that, I'd be lost.
Lovely, thank you. And let's go to Thomas next, please.
Firstly, I completely agree with everything that Salma's just said. But in terms of the actual workload, I feel like the jump's often exaggerated. It's not quite as large as you think. The A level will build a nice basis for you, particularly if you do A level geography, and that will help. And your university knowledge it sort of just extends what you've learned at A level, and you just build off of that constantly. And so far, it's been just developing them ideas and the knowledge that you have a little bit further. And I feel like it's not something to be afraid of, the jump to university, because it's not really a jump. It's sort of like a little step, just a step up.
Lovely, thank you. And Oliwia?
Yeah, the main thing for me is like, because all of my subjects at A level were coursework subjects, or had like a sort of element where we did like a practice coursework. So say like psychology, I didn't do like formal coursework, but I did like coursework style work, and also like doing the EPQ. They really helped me with like the kind of style of like how you would do like assignments at university, and it also taught me about like referencing a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't like perfect then, but it introduces you to it, and like makes you familiar with it, and like I don't know, using Google Scholar as well was really like useful, and like just like navigating all those different things for doing my coursework and my EPQ, I found like really helpful for university, because it really is like quite reflective of like assignments and essays at university.
Lovely, thank you. So yeah, I think the main point that I'd like anyone to take away from this is that I know that sometimes it can be quite a daunting prospect to come to university, and it is sometimes made to seem like a really scary, huge jump. And you might be moving away from home, you might be studying a subject that you haven't studied previously, but that there are a number of support mechanisms in place at university to help support you through that transition. And as the student ambassadors have covered, that I think sometimes the transition is made to seem bigger than it actually is. And we're not here to test you. It's supposed to be a challenge, and it's supposed to be an exciting challenge to move from A-level study to university study, but that it's one that you can do if you make sure that you kind of approach it in the right way. You make sure you prepare for your all of your teaching, and you make sure to plan to study outside of the scheduled timetable. So I think that's one point as well, is that when you come and see your timetable, where you might have just gone to your year 13 college or sixth form or wherever it is that you've been studying, and go for those hours and then kind of go home. And when you don't have any scheduled teaching, it's a similar process for university, but we do expect that you do outside learning outside of what is just in your seminars and lectures and things. There's a lot of reading that you could be doing. A lot of this is, as Salma said, kind of reliant on yourself to kind of teach yourself certain things, or look for extra information as part of your studies. We're there to guide you and we're there to support you. And it's not that you're supposed to be finding a needle in a haystack, but it is definitely that you're supposed to be doing extra work outside of your studies. So it won't just be read this one text that we've discussed in the seminar. It might be, let's talk about something else. outside of that, or this piece of research, you found this, let's talk about that, that's exciting, and it relates into the topic that we're studying. So yeah, so it's meant to be quite exciting, the freedom that you get from going from A-level to university study. But we're here definitely to support you, whether that's within the school, so there's academics, there's professional services staff, and then people like myself, who is a marketing manager who sits within the school. So I hope that I would be contacted if people need support as well. But there's also professional services outside of the school, so people like careers, the library, other student support areas are all there to support you. So lovely. Let's move along. When you were writing your personal statements, obviously when you're applying through UCAS, you require a personal statement to apply to university. What was the best bit of advice that you got for writing your personal statements? And let's start with Olivia.
I think definitely don't try to like drag out like specific things because you think it's like a really important thing to talk about. I think it's better to show like your kind of breadth as a person, like the breadth of things rather than the depth of things that you've like done or I don't know, read or whatever, because it kind of shows like loads of different skills rather than a lot about one kind of skill. And I think that's like mainly something that they're really looking for, is like showing that, you know, you've had like loads of different experience in loads of different things. And yeah.
Lovely, thank you. And then Thomas?
I'd say don't worry about making it perfect the first time around. I know that I think I had about 24 drafts on mine. So take the time to continuously go over and sort of tweak and extend things. So I guess what I'm trying to say is start it early and just make a start, because once you've got a basis, you'll continue to build from there.
Lovely. And Selma?
I think the best piece of advice that I received when like writing my personal statement was to show like how passionate I am about whatever I was studying. So obviously like I chose geography. So like the person that helped me told me to like focus on how passionate I am about like the subject area, and just show how I think that geography is going to help me further myself and further what I want to do in the future. So I think a lot of the times in personal statements, people just try to stick to how it's going to get you to university. I think people need to like level up a bit above that and say, oh, well, like I want to do X, Y, and Z. It doesn't have to be like exactly like I have no idea what I want to do in the future, but I have an idea. And an idea and a starting point is all you need. And I think go from there and like things will just come to you. And also like when you're writing, if you don't think too. Your brain will be your best friend and it will be your worst enemy. Like just go with the flow and don't think too much about it because it will come to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's all really, really good bits of advice from everyone there. So it's one of the hardest things I find sometimes to advise prospective students on is the personal statement, because everyone wants to have almost a checklist of things that they should include in their personal statement. And if they check off all 5, say, things, then they'll definitely get into every single university that they apply to. And the personal statement doesn't really work like that. We don't want to see the exact same formulaic personal statement every single time, because when we read so many of them, they get to sound very similar. And so we do want to see your passions. We want to see what makes you interested, what are you interested in, why you have a passion for that subject. And there will be key points as have been kind of covered. So passion for the subject, where you'd like to be in the future, and how you think that the program will get you there. But it is really just to find out more about you as a person, because we do get lots of applications and we want to make sure that the program's right for you and that our program suits you best as well, and that we make sure that that you will enjoy your studies with us throughout your time with us. So I think it is one of those things of just make a start, maybe start with some bullet points and then expand them out into a sentence and then expand them out into a couple of paragraphs, and then before you know it, you're having to cut down words rather than worrying about getting to the kind of personal statement restrictions. So and also one of my other tips would be to either ask someone else to read it or read it aloud, so that you can kind of hear it in real life, because sometimes you put it onto paper and it just doesn't quite click. So when you're reading it to someone or someone else, they can kind of, with some fresh eyes or hearing it, does really help. So if you can do that, then whether that's someone at school, an advisor, one of your teachers, or someone at home, or a friend even, just so that you can get some extra ears or eyes on it, that is always something I suggest. So lovely. Okay, so let's go on to what piece of advice you would give to someone when they're looking at the application process or universities and trying to consider, because obviously you've got to either narrow it down to one choice or narrow it down to 5 choices when you first apply. So kind of how you went about that process and what tips you'd give to our attendees today. So if we start with Oliwia.
I think, I don't know if like anyone will be familiar with it, but my college made us use like Unifrog, and I found that as like the best resource ever, because it compiled like all the like information about universities, like the entry requirements, and you could put them in order, and maybe their like ranking, things like that, like where they are, and you can like filter it and stuff. But if you don't like use Unifrog, I definitely like would look at like ranking tables, and obviously like it's subjective and they're not like the be all and end all, because you know everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their own like experiences, but it kind of like lets you see like, I don't know, what you're kind of more interested in, like say like, I don't know, do you want their department to be really good, or do you want the student experience to be really good, or I don't know, it just depends like really what you like look at when you want to go to university, and like what you kind of want to prioritize, if that makes sense.
No one program is going to be the best program for everybody, so that's why it's important to kind of look at them all in the whole, as Oliwia says. So it is important to not only look at the course program or the school, make sure you're looking at whether that's accommodation, whether it's a campus or non-campus university, depending on what you would like to commit to doing for the next 3 or plus years of your life. So it is an important thing. So yeah, lovely. Let's move on to Salmonex, please.
I feel like both Bex and Olivia have said all the things that I was going to say, but definitely look at like whether you want to live on campus, or like whether you want to go to like, I don't know, outside of London, or whether you're not from London, you want to move into London. I think that's really important, like living situations and what kind of environment you want to be in. So I've been born and raised in London, and I always knew I wanted to stay in London because I personally think London is the best, but that's besides the point. But yeah, so I picked, all these things just factored into like me picking Queen Mary's, and also look at like perhaps the societies, sports clubs, or extracurricular activities that you're interested in, like what the universities like provide. So perhaps look into that and see like how that factors into what you want to make out of your university experience, and also make sure you pick the modules, like make sure you look at the modules as well. I think modules are really important, but yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Thomas?
I think you've all pretty much covered everything, but I sort of made my decision based off of modules and the extracurricular activities that were involved when I was selecting my universities. I wanted to go and look at, and I think that's also a second point. If you can go and view somewhere or go and see it, or participate in any events that are going on, definitely take advantage of that, because they'll give you big insights into what's going on in uni, what uni's actually like. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Lovely, yeah, thank you. I think those are all really good points. There's lots to kind of take in for each university, so it is important. And another thing to note is that perhaps you're thinking about a couple of different subject areas that you might want to study, and in some cases there might be either joint honours or programs with. So for example, we do geography with business management, or environmental science with business management as an option, but there's also the opportunity to study things outside of your program. So for example, I also work within the School of Languages, Linguistics and Film, and they also provide students with the opportunity to take to learn a language in addition to their program of study if they haven't chosen a language as part of their undergraduate program. So there are those opportunities to kind of learn a new language, or continue to learn a language that you've already started learning. So it doesn't mean that you have to just select necessarily one area and commit to that for the next 3 years. There are other bits that can be added to your university experience that don't just sit within the program. So that is definitely important. So I hope that you've all found that helpful, but I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact with us, and that's through the drug admissions email. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon.